Emma James is here with MediaWatch, looking at how opinions and emotions are evolving in the wake of the attack in Berlin.
Yes, it does seem as though in Germany and across the world, people are split between mourning, grief, anger and fear. And it looks as though the German media is suffering the same kind of a split, because if we take a look at this tweet, it says simply the difference, and it has the front pages of the Berliner Morgenpost and Bild, which is a daily newspaper, a national daily. And the Berliner Morgenpost says, "Don't be afraid," while Bild has one word which says fear. And a lot of people seem to have reacted quite badly to that Bild front page, feeling that it's inappropriate. This Twitter user says, "What do the terrorists want? They want for us to be afraid. Who is helping them?" Built with this front page. Another Twitter reaction is this one, simply the hashtag lying press, along with that built front page. Clearly somebody who feels that that is the incorrect way to describe how Germany is feeling right now. Another area where there is a lot of disagreement right now is the reaction to Merkel's refugee policy and how much this is to blame for what has happened. Angela Merkel herself said yesterday, "I know that it would be particularly difficult for all of us to bear if it would be confirmed that this deed was carried out by a person who sought protection and asylum in Germany," as we now believe to be the case. What is interesting, though, is that Die Tageszeitung has carried an editorial today which says, "It is appalling if there are now calls to reconsider the refugee policy as a whole. What happened in Berlin was long feared, an act of brutal violence. The only effective defence is to keep calm," they say. And there are signs, literally, on the streets of Berlin that Berlin doesn't want to succumb to bitterness and division. The city of freedom will always reunite, says this Twitter user, and you've got signs saying things like "the light is stronger than the darkness," and on these photographs you've got people carrying huge banners saying "you will not divide us." And it's very similar to what we saw here in France in the wake of the attacks in Paris, where people really came together. However, there are, of course, those people who don't wish to sweep this under the carpet and come together, and we're seeing things like Merkel muss weg, which is Merkel must go, that hashtag being used very regularly on social media, and there have been some protests where those kind of signs have been held up. Also people on Twitter saying Merkel must go to jail, a fairly strong viewpoint there. The far-right AfD party, Alternative for Germany, Markus Pretzel is one of their politicians. Very quickly after that attack, he tweeted this: "When will this cursed hypocrisy end? These are Merkel's dead." And there are a lot of people out there laying a lot of blame at the door of Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany. Indeed. Interestingly, though, there's a blog on the Spectator website, which is a fairly right-leaning magazine in the United Kingdom. And it says Germany's facing a ticking time bomb of rage. And it is an interesting read, because what it aims to do is really make you think about, if you have liberal views, whether you should be questioning them right now. He says that German social media is filled with anger, not with Islamic extremists or Angela Merkel, but with the Alternative for Germany party and its supporters. Now, it's not necessarily true given what I've been seeing, but there is some anger out there aimed at the AfD party. And what he says is this a form of Stockholm syndrome, where a kidnap victim becomes then enamoured with their own kidnappers? And he says, we want to protect the most vulnerable, and we want to say that we want to welcome refugees, but he says migrants bring greater risk of terrorism, and that we just don't want to admit that. A very controversial view, but it is worth looking at.
Controversial view, as you've pointed out, shared by, among others, the far-right AfD party and Mr. Pretzel, who was twisting things in his particular way, as most far-right politicians have been doing so. But this man on the run at the moment, an asylum seeker, or hiding behind the cloak of being an asylum seeker, that's probably the crux of the matter, isn't it? Because looking at what the police have said about him, this man has moved around in various places, which suggest that he's being funded by somebody, yeah. And most asylum seekers don't have that kind of financial backing, do they?
This wasn't somebody who is a genuine asylum seeker. He's come to Europe.
So it's better vetting, better intelligence, better tracking of people. Let's talk about someone who, without any doubt, is an asylum seeker. A Syrian refugee has been personally welcomed by the Turkish president. And this has got something of, well, plenty of attention. Who is this Syrian refugee?
You may remember the name Bana Alabed. She is the 7-year-old girl who has been tweeting from Aleppo. She now has 358,000 followers on Twitter. She was evacuated from the besieged city this week, and certainly seems to have had the VIP treatment. Having left Aleppo, she was then flown by helicopter to Turkey, and here she is meeting none other than President Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
I mean, this is a great photo opportunity for President Erdogan,
Absolutely, and he's been making the most of it, tweeting the images along with tweets in both Arabic and in English too. Lots of smiling faces there. You may remember as well that Bana Alabed's mother tweeted this earlier or last week, saying, please make this ceasefire work and get us out now. That was addressed to Recep Tayyip Erdogan and the Foreign Minister of Turkey. He's also tweeted those images today, saying what could be more beautiful than the smile of a child. And even Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, has said, this is so amazing to see. All of us at Twitter send our love. There are, though, some who still question whether this girl is real. Bana is just a little girl who's too young to understand that she's being exploited as a propaganda tool. Interestingly, though, I took a look at this site, which is a citizen journalist investigative website where they try and look into controversies, conspiracy theories, and they looked into whether or not Bana Alabed is real, whether she was really tweeting from inside Aleppo, because some people said, no, she was in Turkey the whole time. Others have called her father a terrorist. In fact, I saw one tweet today that referred to Bana Alabed as a terror tot. So it is interesting. There is a lot of talk out there about, is she being used for propaganda? This seems to come to the conclusion that no, she is not. But of course, we will have to wait and see what more emerges during her time in Turkey.
But for now, it seems the 7-year-old is safe and out of Aleppo. Emma, thank you very much indeed. Emma James with MediaWatch. Kate with the business, thank you too. And thank you for being with us as well. Much more to come here on France 24.